On the 3rd of November 1924, the 4:40 p.m. train from Liverpool to Blackpool was scheduled for this area of between Kirkham and Lytham. It just passed through Kirkham, and at the local station of Moss Side was heading towards Lytham. It was doing its usual speed when the leading pair of engine wheels struck the rails of a siding crossing in the vicinity of milepost 121. With the result, the 90 yards of the downline track was torn up and destroyed, and the whole of the train derailed. The train was heavily loaded, and mainly as a consequence of the overturning of the two leading coaches, 12 passengers were killed instantly, and 2 subsequently died of injuries later on in hospital. 10 others suffered more or less seriously from wounds and effects of shock at the time. The driver of the train sadly was also killed. The fireman and the guard of the train, they were injured. The signal box that had been struck by the train, the signalman on duty at the time, he received injuries, and he was very fortunate to escape with his life. Here we start in Lytham Cemetery, and here we have William Charles Crooks, who was the engine driver of the ill-fated train. Here it says he was killed in the Lytham Railway disaster, 3rd November 1924, aged 42. He's buried with his children John, Annie and Mary, who died in infancy, and his wife, who died at 48 in 1933. Here in Lytham Cemetery we have the second grave, Leslie Dawson, no relation by the way. He was killed in the Lytham Rail disaster, 3rd November 1924, aged only 22 years. It says also here that John is buried here, so I would guess that might be Leslie's father, and his mother Sarah Ethel is also buried here. Here we have in Lytham Cemetery the final resting place of Commander Charles H. Graham. He also died in the train disaster on the 3rd November 1924 and buried here with his wife Muriel, and she died in 1967. Now local historians have called Charles Graham a sort of final destination person. He was to board the Titanic at Strasbourg, but his train that he was on had actually been delayed, so he didn't actually make it on to the fateful ship. He was later on a ship called the Baltic, and this one ran aground, and he obviously stayed on there but got into a lifeboat with his men once the ship was clear. And finally, his life ended on the 3rd November at that train disaster in Lytham. Here in Lytham Cemetery, we have the resting place of Annie and Isa Greenwood. Both girls losing their life in the rail disaster of 1924. They were aged 31 and 21, and at some point later, 1946, their mother passed away and was buried here with them. For our final grave, we are here in Fence, which is a little area just outside of Burnley, and here will lie the remains of Margaret and Emma Pickup, sisters who died in the accident on the 3rd November 1924. Both here buried with their father. And some other family members. Some lovely snowdrops here. So there we have the story of the 1924 Lytham train accident. It's called Lytham train accident, but obviously it actually happened sort of in between Lytham and Kirkham. But for me, very cold, very windy.
Yeah.
Fence here out in near Burnley. Me and Mandy, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.
I'll just go pick up my fingers now because they're dropped off.
Yeah, it's a bit cold. Bye for now.